Come on, dagger, 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 dagger. Come on, kill him. Come on. Kill. Okay, I'm on fire. Put it out. Put it out. Put the fire out. No. No, okay, no fire for you. Alright, here we go. B25, come here. Ow! Why? Why do you have to do me like this? Oh, we've got to kill. Okay, Yak 3 time. Here we go, here we go. Watch the Yak 3 completely vaporize. Oh, the friendlies collided with each other. Oh my god, if I get set on fire again, I'm uninstalling the game. Oh, where is the German fire department when you need it? Oh boy. This is the Ju-388. It's a high-altitude interceptor of a medium bomber that was then made into a different variation. And, well, the history of the vehicle is very interesting. But it's got good offensive armament, two 30mm Mk108s and two 151 cannons. It's got access to Minegeschoss, which, well, this thing's performance doesn't necessarily negate its effect. It's an excellent bomber hunter, although it does get an intercept airborne and does struggle to get up to altitude. And, well, the radar is a bit of extra weight. They do have a lessened crew member as well. There's only 2 crew members in here. And, well, you know, a little bit of armor plate. But if you've never heard of this thing before, it's not like its bomber cousin. Its bomber cousin is the 288, and that's the bomber variation. This, instead, is a rare event vehicle, which was introduced in, probably way back in, when was it? 2019, it seems. It does have a nice winter camouflage as well, and this thing is incredibly difficult to use. By the way, subscribe and also buy my decal, link in the description, and get 3% off anything in War Thunder. Now, it is an incredibly finicky machine, especially when spawning in. You've just got to make sure you optimize your climbing, because playing this vehicle solo is probably the worst thing you can possibly do. It's a very, very heavy machine, and something which I kind of akin to that of maybe almost, like, it feels incredibly heavy. It is worse than the TAR 152 and the BV 155 by a considerable mention. And as you can see here, the guns don't line up with your actual reticle where you're aiming. They aim down at about a 30-degree angle because this is a night fighter, and the idea is that you come in, intercept bombers and various other heavy aircraft. But the usage in War Thunder means you have to be incredibly technical about it, and head-ons are preferable, and choosing your targets wisely and coming in stealthily is an option that you can do here if the enemy isn't paying attention. But because it's a high-altitude performance variant, it doesn't turn very well. Because it is a 288 in essence, it does struggle a little bit, but you can get away with doing some immense shots like this. Ignore the flashing on the ground there, as my graphics card is slowly cooking itself. This Corsair had no idea it was coming. And unfortunately, this thing catches fire so easily that it isn't really worth the effort. By the time you go to try and get head-on with someone, it usually ends up in a death, particularly if you're not really prepared for that. So it takes a little bit of setup and a little bit of forethought, but, you know, let's try again. Okay, Yak 3 has been swarming me for a little bit of time. Again, trying to get the guns on. If he didn't hit me directly there, and my aircraft didn't wobble side to side, I would have absolutely nailed the living daylights out of him. But notice, both engines are on fire. I haven't fallen out of the sky yet. I was trying to see if I can use my Schrager music and try and get shots on, but he collides with the enemy aircraft there, and, well, silly friendly. It's time to go back to the airfield and see if we can actually land this thing, because I'm curious to see how long this thing will burn for. I don't know whether this is a bug at the moment, but a lot of aircraft seem to stay on fire for a longer period of time, and what ends up by happening is, well, a long time just burning. You bastard. Right, next match. It's incredibly hard to get more than 2 to 3 kills on this thing, unless you're pretty good with your situational awareness. Unfortunately, XP50s and the likes of Wyverns do ruin your utter chance at any form of success. thing is, because it gets, you know, about 1,300 to 1,500 meters air spawn, it doesn't necessarily perform too well. It can do 600 kilometers in a dive, no problem. So diving in on aircraft is perfectly viable. However, when you've got other aircraft that outpace you, P-38Ks for example, and various other aircraft that can outpace you completely and outclimb you, your side climbing is really your only bet. And still, you know, you don't really have the greatest opportunity. Even the P-61's more maneuverable. You can see I'm trying to lead the shots here. Managed to actually get some criticals on this P-61, but as you can see, I'm just trying to get the rudder around, trying to get the, you know, finish off the aircraft. There we go. And it just is an utter struggle bus. For a interceptor aircraft, you would expect it to be a little bit better, but the aircraft that this thing was really concerned with was actually the B-29 threat over Europe. Never actually happened, but B-24s and B-17s were the main target of, you know, the Luftwaffe's attempts at slowing down, you know, the fighters, but and various other things. As you see here, we're going to go into a dive here and chase this P-47. Now, he's not paying attention. If he was paying attention, he'd climb out the way, and he'd basically pull out the way here. But this is your crucial mistake. If you ever see one of these things, which is incredibly rare, don't sit still. You know, at the moment, he is sitting still. I've ripped his wing off. He's going to go into the, well, to the snow. I was going to say into the drink, but it's not really the same. Now, because this is basically a heavy Ju-388, it is an aircraft which is incredibly tough to use in a solo capacity. It doesn't handle well. Even with the improved engines, its overall mobility is very poor. The rudder shift time is just horrible, and the ailerons are really lackluster. But climbing to high altitudes is incredibly difficult, and most flights take place well below this aircraft's optimal performance range, which, you know, on the Wikipedia it is said that, you know, you should stick to teammates or squads, or, you know, squad up with a friend in a maneuverable fighter. But I didn't have that option as I'm recording this in the middle of the week. Yeah, everyone that I know is either at work or playing a different game in its entirety. The guns are fantastic. If they were level with your actual reticle, this thing might be slightly more useful, but it is like trying to hit the broadside of a barn and hoping that your shells hit the enemy aircraft. And as you can see, I've climbed for a significant portion of this match, and we're at 4,000 meters, but the enemy, because they've got that longer distance between them, yeah, it just means that they can basically outpace you at every stage that they can possibly do. And it is disappointing, because I was trying to get the aircraft back on that XP-50, but, you know, they're basically flying UFOs. Yak-3s, Yak-9s, XP-50s, P-38s, any sort of Japanese interceptor. And because games are mixed, you don't verse historical allies, or enemies, should I say. So it's another matter of, well, flying back to the airfield, because this thing has fuel tanks throughout the centre of the airframe. It just means that this thing basically is a giant lighter. So why was it an event vehicle? Probably because the developers thought that this vehicle was so garbage that it wasn't really worth the time, and adding another 3 or another number to the Ju-388 series of aircraft meant that, well, they could comfortably get away with, well, basically doing nothing and just reusing a couple of assets. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, the rear gunner is not exactly the greatest sort of use of, I don't know, it just feels like the rear gunner doesn't do anything, the robotic defensive fire. I don't know, it could be just me, maybe they've nerfed them, but I have no idea what this Corsair was doing on Malta. Absolutely no idea. And let's now take it into a traditional dogfight, where we are fighting something that outperforms in its entirety. This is a Spitfire, and I just can't get a beat on. If I was going to actually fully commit to that, I would have crashed. The gunners aren't really going to do anything here because he's now engaging with a 109. Trying to pull this aircraft in and trying to get it actually working is a tough challenge. It is a heavy behemoth. Alright, and pull up. I'll try and pull up. No, not going to get a beat on him there. If the guns were slightly higher in elevation, then that might have ended up in a kill. Again, I apologise for the flickering on the screen. My graphics card is basically on the verge of collapsing. And yeah, this just isn't going to work, and this 109 keeps dancing around. And by the time I actually do manage to get a hit, well, yeah, it's a little too late. I could try the shrugging music there, but that's, you know, changing camera mode and then being all awkward. The 109 here isn't really doing himself any favours. He's turn fighting with a Spitfire. You know, could have got a hit there, but we didn't quite get a hit on him. And I'm kicking the rudder. We managed to rip off the section of his wing, and then we get absolutely screwed by a Wyvern. Anyway. Look, the machine is a rarity. You will see basically none of these out in the wild. In fact, I can count on basically a hand. There's 3 content creators that I know that have one. I'm one of them, and there is a person in my community that has one. It's shit for a reason, but I like it. I think it's really quirky, and keeping the kill-to-death ratio up on this machine is, well, something that I kind of do appreciate. And while this is a rarity, it is something that is, well, fun to play. I don't know, I kind of like it. It's difficult for all the wrong reasons, and it's just an oddity. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in another video soon. Alright, bye-bye.